Snow fell like whispers that morning, soft and soundless over the empty train platform. The wind carried the scent of coal smoke and loneliness, twisting through the small frontier station that stood forgotten by time. The world felt frozen except for the faint cry of a baby, a fragile sound, as if hope itself had a heartbeat. She sat against the wall of the station, her dress torn and thin, clutching a bundle of gray wool. The baby's little hand peeked out, trembling from the cold. Her lips were blue, her eyes hollow, and she didn't even know where she was anymore. All she remembered was the sound of the train whistle fading into the distance, and the man who never looked back. He had promised to come back for her, promised her a home, a name, and a place in the world. But promises meant nothing in a land like this. She lowered her head, brushing a trembling kiss over the baby's forehead. "It's all right," she whispered. "Mama's here." The word mama felt strange on her tongue, like it belonged to someone else, a woman stronger, braver, not broken like her. The cold bit into her bones, but she didn't cry. She couldn't. The tears had frozen somewhere deep inside her. Then came the sound of boots, slow, deliberate steps on the wooden planks of the platform. She lifted her gaze just enough to see him, a tall man in a long brown coat, hat pulled low against the snow. A leather satchel hung from his shoulder, and his gloves looked worn from years of hard work. He moved with the quiet weight of someone who'd seen too much and spoke too little. The silent cowboy. He stopped a few feet from her, eyes hidden beneath the brim of his hat. For a long, breathless moment, neither spoke. Only the baby's soft whimper broke the stillness. "You need help?" His voice was low, gravelly, almost reluctant, as if he wasn't used to speaking to anyone. She hesitated. Words felt heavy. We were supposed to go west. He said he'd come back for us." The cowboy looked down the tracks, long and empty now. "He's gone." The truth hit her harder than the wind. She clutched the baby tighter, her body trembling.
"I know," she whispered.
He crouched beside her, gloved hands resting on his knees. His face came into the light, a rough jaw, storm gray eyes that carried both pain and peace. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "Don't have one. Not anymore." Something shifted in his eyes. Pity, no, something else. Something that looked like recognition. He glanced at the baby, then at her again. "You plan on staying here?" She looked at the empty tracks, the falling snow. "Where else can I go?" He exhaled slowly, as if wrestling with a decision. Then, after a long pause, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a piece of jerky, offering it to her. "You should eat. You both look like you ain't eaten in days." She stared at it, unsure whether to trust him. But hunger won over fear. She took it, whispering, "Thank you." The cowboy stood. Again, looking toward the town beyond the station. "There's a cabin a few miles out," he said. "Fire's still burning. Ain't much, but it's warm. You can come if you want." Her eyes widened slightly. "Why would you help me?" He looked down at her, expression unreadable. "'Cause somebody once helped me. Didn't ask my name neither." For a moment, she thought she saw something break behind those gray eyes. A memory, maybe, or an old hurt. She wanted to say yes, to stand, to follow him. But her legs felt like ice. The cowboy noticed, dropped to one knee, and without a word lifted the baby from her arms, careful as if holding glass. "Let's go," he said. She pushed herself up, swaying a little, and followed him off the platform. The snow thickened, each flake catching in her dark hair. She walked behind him, watching the way he carried her child, not awkwardly but gently, like someone who understood the weight of fragile things. They didn't speak much on the way. The only sounds were the crunch of snow beneath boots and the baby's quiet sighs. Finally, through the white blur, a small cabin appeared. Smoke curled from the chimney, promising warmth. Inside, the cowboy set the baby near the hearth, wrapped in a blanket, then handed her a tin cup of steaming coffee. She held it with shaking hands. "You don't even know me," she murmured. He shrugged, sitting across from her. "Don't need to." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the crackle of fire. She studied him in the dim light, his worn gloves, the scar at his jawline, the way he avoided her gaze. There was a sadness in him that matched her own. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded once. "Ain't no trouble." The baby stirred, and she picked the child up, rocking gently. "He'll need a name someday," she whispered, more to herself than to him. The cowboy looked up, eyes glinting in the firelight. "You both will." She blinked at him. "What?" He stood, walking to the window, watching the snow drift outside. Then he turned back, voice low and certain. You said you don't have a name. But you do now. Her lips parted, her heart catching in her chest. What is it? She asked quietly. He looked at her for a long moment, as if searching her soul for an answer only she could understand. Then with a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes, he said, Grace. The name hung in the air like a prayer. Grace. She looked down at the baby, then back at him. For the first time in a long while, warmth flickered in her chest, not from the fire but from something deeper. The cowboy turned back toward the flames, silent again. Outside, the storm raged on. But inside that small cabin, something fragile had begun to heal. Grace held her baby close and whispered, Thank you. The cowboy didn't answer. He didn't need to. The man who spoke little. Morning came slow and silver through the cabin window. The snow had stopped, leaving the world wrapped in quiet white. Grace stirred on the cot, the baby still asleep beside her, wrapped snugly in the blanket the cowboy had found. For the first time in days, she'd slept without fear. The cowboy was already up, as she somehow knew he would be. He stood by the fire, brewing coffee, his back straight, his movements deliberate. He looked like a man born for silence, and as if words were a luxury he never had use for. Grace sat up slowly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You didn't sleep? He glanced over, then back at the fire. Not much. Got used to that a long time ago. Thank you, she said softly. For last night. For everything. He shrugged, pouring her a tin cup of coffee. Ain't nothing. But she knew it was more than nothing. Out there, kindness was rarer than gold. She sipped the bitter drink, the warmth spreading through her cold body. You never told me your name, she said after a moment. He hesitated, then replied, Cole. She nodded. Thank you, Cole. He gave a short nod, but his eyes stayed on the fire. The name suited him, solid, simple, like stone. The baby stirred, and Grace lifted him gently. His name's Samuel, she murmured, as if testing the sound. Samuel, Grace. Cole looked at her, something soft flickering across his face before he turned away. They didn't speak much after that. Cole stepped outside to fetch firewood, and Grace watched through the window as he moved. Steady, focused. The way men did when they'd learned to survive by silence. There was something in him she couldn't name. A sadness, maybe, or guilt. By afternoon, the snow began to melt. Cole packed a small saddlebag. Town's 2 miles east, he said. You need things, want food, milk for the boy. I'll ride in and bring it back. Grace nodded, eyes down. You don't have to. I know. And then he was gone, a dark figure disappearing into a field of white. Grace spent the hours tending the fire and humming softly to Samuel. She didn't realize how quiet it had become until a knock startled her. She froze. Another knock, harder this time. The door creaked open, and it wasn't Cole. A man stepped inside, tall and mean-looking, coat dusted with snow and eyes sharp as knives. 2 more followed behind him. Well, the first man drawled. Looks like Cole Bennett's keeping company. Grace held Samuel close. Who are you? The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Friends of Cole's, used to ride with him. Till he decided he didn't like our kind of work no more. She backed up against the wall. He's not here. I can see that, the man said, stepping closer. But you are. And that baby looks real comfortable. I reckon Cole's gone soft. Before she could speak, a low, dangerous voice came from behind them. Step away from her. Cole stood in the doorway, snow clinging to his coat, gun already drawn. The men froze. The leader turned, sneering. Well, speak of the devil. Didn't expect to see you again, Danner, Cole said, his tone calm but deadly. Danner grinned. Didn't expect to see you playing. Family man either. He gestured toward Grace. She yours? Cole's jaw tightened. Leave. Not till we settle what you owe. You already took my share, Cole said quietly. And my brother's life. The air turned to glass. Grace could barely breathe. Danner's grin vanished. Your brother made his choice. So did I. The gunshot cracked through the cabin like thunder. Danner's hat flew off as Cole's bullet struck the wood beside his head. Next one ain't a warning, Cole said flatly. Danner stared at him for a long moment, then spat on the floor. You ain't worth it, Bennett. You never were. He jerked his head toward his men. Let's go. They stormed out into the snow, their horses kicking up white dust as they rode off. Cole holstered his gun and shut the door. His hands trembled slightly, the only sign of the storm still inside him. Grace was shaking, clutching Samuel tight. Who were they? Men I used to ride with, he said, voice low. Back before I got tired of killing. She stared at him, seeing him for the first time. Not just a cowboy, but a man running from his own ghosts. He poured water into the basin, washing the blood from his knuckles. You and the boy all right? She nodded slowly. Yes, thanks to you. He looked at her then, really looked. Her eyes were tired but strong. You should rest. We'll move tomorrow. It ain't safe here no more. Move where? He hesitated. West, there's land there, quiet, maybe you can start fresh. She swallowed hard. And you? He gave a small, almost sad smile. Don't reckon I got anywhere else to go. That night, as the wind howled outside, Grace sat by the fire, the baby asleep on her lap. Cole sat in the corner, cleaning his gun, silent as ever. After a while, she said softly, Why did you name me Grace? He didn't look up. Because I needed to believe in it again. The words hung between them, heavy and real. She watched him, the man who spoke little, who carried the weight of too many yesterdays, and for the first time, she felt safe, not because he promised her anything, but because he didn't. He simply stayed, and in a world where everyone left, that was enough. Outside, dawn was breaking. The first light of morning spilled across the snow, touching the edges of the cabin like a blessing. Grace smiled faintly, whispering to the sleeping child, We're not alone anymore. Cole looked up then, meeting her eyes, and though he didn't say a word, something passed between them, something that didn't need speaking. If this story moved you, if you felt the chill of that train station, the warmth of that fire, and the quiet bond between two lost souls, then subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive, bringing you more emotional, cinematic Western tales filled with courage, love, and redemption. Subscribe now for more stories that touch your heart and remind you that even in silence, love always finds a voice.